Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This morning I woke up with a strong craving for coffee, but alas, I was out of milk and I couldn't survive on black coffee alone, so I decided to head to the nearby supermarket. With my mask on and rubber gloves in hand, I set off. It was 7 a.m. and the parking lot was nearly empty, which made me think I could dash in and out in no time. Little did I know that a wild Karen would cross my path. I reached the entrance and was about to grab a shopping cart when I heard someone frantically shouting, "Excuse me, excuse me." I turned around and found a woman running towards me. She had the classic Karen haircut and her voice was a mix of politeness and demanding authority. "Yes, what can I do for you?" I asked, trying to be as polite as possible. She wasted no time and she said, "I need toilet paper, the X brand. Oh, and also I need milk. Here's 20 bucks and I expect a receipt and my change." Still groggy due to my caffeine deprivation, I muttered, "What?" while giving her a perplexed look. She returned my gaze with a disdainful expression, as if I should have known this already. "I can't enter the store because I have my baby in the car," she explained, pointing to an oversized SUV nearby. "They won't let me bring her in, so since you're going in anyway, I thought you could do it for me." Caught off guard and daydreaming about that glorious cup of coffee waiting for me, I agreed. Okay. I grabbed her requested items along with a few that weren't on her list. Cookies and ice cream. Don't judge me, I was desperate for caffeine. With my arms loaded, I started making my way towards the exit, mentally preparing for the coffee I was about to brew. But just before I could step out, I saw our heroine Karen tapping her foot impatiently, arms crossed. I handed her the change, the receipt, and the milk and the toilet paper, wishing her a nice day. As I turned to leave, I heard her muttering something that sounded like, "What the hell?" I cringed, but didn't pay much attention and continued walking. And then it happened. Out of nowhere, a roll of toilet paper struck me square in the back. At 6'1", 220 pounds, I'm not a small guy, and the unexpected impact made me fully awake. I turned around to face Karen, who was now screaming, "You bought the wrong size." I bellowed back, "Listen lady, I was amazed. They even had your brand of toilet paper. If it's not what you wanted, return it. But don't ask me to do it for you, or I'll go ape crazy on you. Hear me?" She turned around and sprinted back to her car, leaving her precious toilet paper lying on the ground. I resumed my exit from the store thinking that was the end of it, but of course it was not. Remember the baby that we all assumed was human? Well, we were all wrong. That baby was actually a pit bull, and Karen was running back towards me with a dog in tow. Given the recent crazy behavior at the supermarket, they had stationed a policeman there who had been observing the entire scene for Karen to stop, warning her that he would be forced to shoot the dog if she continued running. To my amazement, she heeded his warning, dropped the leash, and the pit bull came pounding toward me. It lay down at my feet, wagging its tail and looking up at me with those big puppy dog eyes. Dogs always seem to love me. Karen started to thank me, explaining that I had done something incredible. However, I was too busy giving belly rubs to the pit bull pup to listen closely. All I heard was something about arresting me, and that's when I realized I needed to pay attention. I turned my focus to the police officer, who had a mix of seriousness and amusement on his face as he watched the pup's joyful reaction to my belly rubs. Karen finally slowed down enough for the officer to get a word in and asked me if I was alright and if I wanted to press charges. Karen immediately launched into a 3-minute long rant, accusing me of all sorts of nonsense. The officer raised his hand to stop her and turned to me. "Well, I have the whole interaction on video, sir. The only crime I witnessed was her assaulting you with a package of toilet paper. If you choose to press charges, I'll have to handcuff her." Both Karen and I were taken aback by this turn of events. I looked at the officer, who had a serious expression, and I decided to press charges for assault. She was handcuffed in front of my eyes, and definitely it was a sight to behold. A few years ago, I had a memorable experience at the Michael's craft store. For those who haven't been to one, it's just like any other craft store similar to Hobby Lobby and the like. I had visited the store many times before, mostly around Christmas, and I knew my way around even though I'd never worked there. On that particular day, I was strolling through the aisles, searching for some niche craft supplies that I couldn't find at Walmart. In my cart, I had some really cute stickers and I was minding my own business when two middle-aged women approached me. They were heading in the opposite direction and one of them spotted my stickers. "Excuse me," one of the ladies said, pointing at the stickers in my cart. "Where did you find those adorable stickers?" I smiled and was happy to help. "Sure, I got them just around the corner from here. Follow me and I'll show you." I set my cart aside and led them to the sticker section. They thanked me and went on their way, and I turned to head back to my cart. But as I did, a mother with two young kids rushed up to me looking a bit frantic. She seemed to be in a hurry. "Hi there," she said, slightly out of breath. "Can you tell me where the bathroom is?" I knew the layout of the store pretty well, and the bathroom was tucked away in the back, near the area where they framed pictures. I pointed in the direction she needed to go. "Well, the bathroom is in the back. Just go behind the counter where they frame stuff and it's down the hall." She sighed in relief, but with a touch of frustration she added, "That's what the other lady told me, but I can't find it." I empathized with her confusion. You have to go past the counter and down the hallway. It's easy to miss if you don't know the layout. She thanked me and hurried toward the back with her two kids. Later, when I was waiting in line to check out, I noticed the same woman and her kids getting in line behind me. The kids were holding crafting kits. The girl had what looked like a sand pouring kit, and the boy had a kit for digging up fake dinosaur fossils. The woman looked a bit surprised and apologetic. I turned around when I saw her behind me, as I tend to be a bit paranoid and always check my surroundings. "Oh, I'm sorry," she exclaimed. I was puzzled. "Don't worry, your kid didn't bump into me or anything." She seemed relieved but still a bit embarrassed. "No, I mean I thought you worked here when I asked you about the bathroom." I reassured her it's totally fine. I'm just a regular customer and I've been here so often that I actually know my way around here. That's all. Until she mentioned it, I had honestly forgotten the small act of kindness I'd shown to others earlier in the store. As we continued to chat, she introduced herself as Lisa and her kids as Sarah and Ben. I told her my name was Emma. We struck up a friendly conversation bonding over our shared love for crafting and DIY projects. Lisa confessed that she was new to the area and was still getting the hang of navigating local stores. What I'm trying to say is, sometimes a small act of kindness, like helping someone find stickers in a store or giving directions to the bathroom, can lead to meaningful connections. A little backstory to get started. I own numerous collector cars and tend to drive them almost every day, weather permitting. The car I was driving today was my JZ X100 Chaser, which I imported from Japan and heavily modified into a draft car. For more context, I am one of the long COVID sufferers, which means that for the past year since having the virus, I still experience heavy fatigue, shortness of breath, and a slew of other symptoms. This condition has granted me a handicapped parking permit. On my way home, my wife called, asking if I minded picking up a few things for dinner. Of course, I had no problem doing so. I stopped at a shopping center not too far from my home and saw two handicapped parking spaces next to each other. I parked in the further one from the store. I went in to collect the groceries that were asked for while using a cane. Upon exiting the store, I noticed a police car parked in front of my car with my permit hanging in the window. An entitled person was talking with the officer. With my cane hanging on a push handle of the cart, I approached. Leaning my body weight onto the cart, and I asked, "Is everything okay here?" The entitled person replied, "Who do you think you are, parking in a handicapped spot like that? No handicapped person would drive this car. You're faking it. You probably made that placard at home." The officer finally intervened, saying, "Ma'am, the placard and a tag on a vehicle come back to the same name. Sir, may I see your driver's license?" I showed him my license and said, "Sorry for bothering you. Have a nice afternoon." The entitled person protested. "What? You can't just let him go. This piece of crap," referring to my car. The The officer replied, "Ma'am, even if this gentleman didn't have the right to park there, we would just ticket the car, not tow it." The entitled person demanded to speak to the sergeant, but the officer declined. She continued repeating herself, holding on to her cell phone, but the sergeant was not called. The officer bid us both a good day as the entitled person scuffled away. The officer and I exchanged an awkward laugh as he shrugged and got back into his car. As the officer pulled away, I started putting the groceries into the back seats of my car, and my car actually had a hood, which was a custom order from Steeping Carbon, including custom drilling for the hood exit exhaust, which cost $3,200. While I was finished putting groceries into my car, I heard a loud, repetitive banging noise. As I looked up, I saw the same entitled woman with a hammer banging on the hood of my car, knocking out my headlights and damaging the front bumper. Before I could shove her away from the car, she managed to completely crack the hood, causing it to splinter from end to end. I pushed the entitled person away so hard that she hit the ground on her back and rolled over, ending up facing stomach down. The entitled person stood up screaming, "You're an absolute murderer!" A worker as well as 2 customers of the store witnessed everything and came running. Realizing she couldn't attack me with a hammer, the entitled person called the police again. I couldn't hear much of the phone call, but I was a bit worried about a possible assault charge. Less than 5 minutes later, the same officer arrived with 2 additional units. The officer ordered me to sit down and I complied, feeling extremely anxious. He handcuffed me while the entitled person continued screaming about me assaulting her. The officer noticed the damage on the front of my car and asked what happened. I explained that this woman had just attacked my car with a hammer unprovoked. Moments after he left, the entitled person denied this, stating that she only hit the hood of the car once because, well, she missed hitting me. Luckily, I remembered that I had a dash cam in my car, which includes a feature that captures video anytime there is motion. I explained this to the officer and mentioned that I could pull up the footage on my phone. The officer uncuffed me while the entitled person kept screaming to take me to jail, clearly realizing that she was in deep trouble. The dashcam footage showed everything that happened. It showed me defending myself against a large woman across a parking lot as she attempted to swing the hammer at me. Actually, I didn't notice this at the time. The entitled person was immediately handcuffed while resisting and even spat on one of the other officers. I expressed my desire to press charges and the entitled person is now facing 4 charges: vandalism, felony assault, assault on an officer, and resisting arrest. Fortunately, the officer allowed me to drive the car home roughly 2 miles while he followed me. It's now sitting in my garage and I'm writing this as I sit on hold with my insurance agent. I plan to file a civil suit against the entitled person as well. Backstory: I'm part of a small family-owned used car dealership. Cue used car sales joke here. We have maybe 50 cars on a lot at any time, and our main business is subprime or people with less than perfect credit. We genuinely want to help the people who can't afford or don't have the credit to buy from a new car dealership. We're actually very well liked in our small community. So recently, I had these customers, let's call her wife and him, husband. They are in their early 20s. They come into my store and I like them. They seem like a nice young couple trying to start their lives out. They have 2 very sweet little girls and could just use a break. They have made some mistakes in their early lives and have less than perfect credit. I coach them on how to improve their credits and they seem sincerely interested in fixing it. So I passed myself to get them alone with the wife's mother, co-signing on a nice 3rd row SUV. The wife is literally crying, hugging me because every other dealer turned them down. Now they are a little short on a down payment, so I take a check for the balance and we agree I'll cash it on his next payday. That was mistake number 1, but it's pretty common in this line of work. I forget about them until the next week when I drop the check at the bank along with other deposits. The next thing I know, I receive a notice that the check has bounced, along with a couple of NSF fees attached for me. The check comes back and it's a dollar amount that is considered a first-degree misdemeanor in our state, just under a felony. I reached out to the wife to see what happened and how we can make arrangements to get this taken care of. The last thing I want to do is go after a young couple with two small kids. At first, the wife is a little shocked and insists that the funds were pulled from their accounts, and I show them the picture of the NSF check. She understands and says that she can pay half in 2 weeks when she's paid again, and in another 2 weeks pay the other half. I agree to this and just take them at their word. And that was mistake number 2. A couple of weeks roll around and I don't hear from the wife or the husband. And now I'm thinking I've been taken for a ride, ignoring my calls, texts, and so on. You get the point. I get a call from the bank and I find out that they haven't made their first payment either. Now, with this particular bank, if the customer doesn't make their first payment, we have to buy back the deal. Basically, we have to give the bank the money they sent us for the loan. After blowing up their phones and Facebook, they finally call me back. I get the sob story. He got let go from his job and he just started a new one, and mom is going to help them get back on their feet. I go through hell and high water with the bank to make a deal that if they make their payment, they will keep the loan. But I'm still on the hook if they miss any of the next 3 payments. The wife also tells me they will make payments to me on a bounced check once he starts getting paychecks. So I agree. They make their payment to the bank and I go about my life until the next month comes around. I got an email from the bank saying the wife didn't make the next month's payment and won't answer their calls. At this point, I'm furious and ready to just go get their vehicle. They won't answer any of my calls and call mom. Mom scrounges everything in her social security paycheck to help try to make the payments for them, and she's short. The wife and husband tell her they will cover the balance and of course do not pay. The bank says the deal is a buyback. We need our money back for the loan within 7 days. Now the only way I can pay back their loan is if my floor plan, basically a giant credit card we buy cars on, gets pictures of the car in my possession. I tried to call, text, email, and message on Facebook to get a hold of both the wife and husband, and they block me on everything. They are basically just stealing the vehicle without paying. They even blocked mom, who has been trying to help them get this handled. Yes, they screwed over their own mother in this ordeal. I just want the vehicle back and to move on with my life. So this is where I go pro-revenge on them. I begin by dropping the chick off at the local prosecutor and they are delighted to file charges against them. I do some skip tracing, calling family members, all of which are more than happy to help because come to find out the husband has had 7 jobs in 4 months and has burdened every single family member with money they borrowed. I found the wife's father on Facebook. Father has been trying to take custody of the deadbeat wife and husband's 2 kids because of how they treated them. He informs me that they are staying in the sister's house right over the border. We are on a state line of 2 states. Remember this. I call up a Rebo company and even drive the hour myself to go get the vehicle. They have been hiding it in the garage, according to neighbors and a Rebo company. I do some searching and find out they are both on probation for stealing a bunch of stuff from multiple stores. So I, of course, find and call up Mrs. Probation Officer to see if she has a last known address. I then mention to her that they are staying above the state line and bounced a very large check to me, and they are facing fresh charges in my town. She appreciates the knowledge. Now, while I was up at their house one evening, I talked to one of the neighbors who also hate them. They are always yelling at their kids and each other, and convinced the neighbor to call me if they see the vehicle outside. It took one day. I got the call. I sent a very large friend who lives nearby them to go get the vehicle. After many expletives and parading my friend, they hand over the vehicle, but not before finally calling me while he was there and telling me how they are going to sue and blah blah blah. I am out quite a bit of money from the ordeal, but here is the best part. I just found out that by living out of state they violated probation and just got sentenced to 30 days in jail for that. They also had their video court date because they are currently in jail with a probation violation. With a local judge on and new charges of the bounced check. I got my vehicle back and guess what? The deadbeat wife's father got custody of the 2 kids. Good for them.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.